Well, I've got a little bit of a rant for you. About 2 months ago, I made a video, and the title was "You Play with Our Lives, but You Won't Respect," something to that effect. And it was me talking about how I went to a shift, and my manager, who runs the place I work at, was upset that I didn't say hello to her, and had said we would have a talk, because this is so rude. And of course, as someone who had been cut down so much in terms of hours, right, where I was only getting, and still am, two shifts or one shift. It's been one shift now for like the last 2 or 3 months. I really felt no incentive to care, right? If she got upset that I didn't say hi to her, I felt no reason to really be bothered by these people having, some kind of issue with my supposed behavior. And over the last, 2 months, I just don't say anything to this person, along with, just if I'm told to do something, you do it, whatever. But I've really just kind of abstained, and because I feel like when I'm called on to speak about a topic, I'm more likely to express how I actually feel, which in a workplace setting is very difficult to do because they have all these, preambles about respect, and just stuff that, it sounds cute on paper, right? Companies want to give off this image of being professional, but then, as I said before, main purpose of a job is to be able to take care of yourself. If you can't take care of yourself, your desire to adhere to their rules kind of starts to fade to a large degree. And that's been my belief system, that if I'm going to barely be able or not able to make anything worth living off of from this job, my concern and care for the rules of it are going to diminish significantly. So I see her today. She says hello, and she actually says my name for the first time ever. And I don't say anything. And then about like 10 minutes later, she calls me into the office with this other lady. And she gets the other one to co-sign with her that supposedly I haven't said hello when she said hello. And I look at her with actual shock, because I don't have a problem admitting when, I'm not saying something, because I there's no reason for me to lie about, oh, I don't say anything to this one, but I'm very nice to that one. So I really had no memory of ever not, like, knowingly not saying anything to a lady. It's either one of two things: either she said something and I genuinely didn't hear it, or she's making it up to side with the other bimbo. That's the theory I had. Um, so again, I didn't want to have a conversation with this about this stuff, because it's a joke, and for most of it, I didn't even really say anything. I just kind of like kept it real, because I was worried about, if the more I said, I would start to let on to my position. But she starts to inquire about, why this change, what happened, and kind of like segues into figuring out that, and it's so stupid, because it's like, you know it's pretty obvious. I think if someone's only getting one shift a week, they're probably not going to be happy with their job anymore. And I actually, when she asked me if I like my job, I said I used to. That was my response. But she goes back to when I spoke to her and I think this other manager back, and it was either November, December, like right before I'd say Christmas. And this is around the time they started doing the two shift crap, before it went even further down to one. And I had done actually a video about this as well. It was called "It's Not Worth It," where she posited, or I guess forwarded the idea to me, that if I learned how to do other things at this place, then I may possibly be able to get more hours. Now, of course, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous that at a place where I was able to perform one task for a whole year, and get, you know, 15, 20, 25 hours a week, that I would suddenly only be able to get one shift or two shifts a week from only knowing that one thing. Because again, if it was something, basically, I didn't want to go along with it, because I thought it was ridiculous that you would even have to learn other stuff to get the same little itty bitty number of hours you were getting before, or possibly less. And I knew that if I did that, even if it removes that excuse from them, there's still the likelihood that they're going to not give me enough hours to sustain myself, do a little like two shift crap, and I would be even more upset. So she repeats this, today, says, I don't have the hours to give to you. And it's like, imagine from my perspective, because I worked this place since November of 2023, so over a year. Imagine working somewhere for so long that you've seen yourself get several dozen hours or multiple, excuse me, 20 something hours a week like that, just doing one specific thing. And then now suddenly they're telling you that, oh, because you only know how to do this, we can only use you 1 day a week out of your 6 days of availability. Just total nonsense. But I got threatened. They said if I continue to act in this way, then they're going to write me up for behavioral issues. And I just kind of like, passingly agreed to saying hello. But I want to keep like reiterating this. Like I said before, a job is supposed to allow you, if not to take care of yourself, then at least to be able to make enough money to see some change with regard to your financial situation. There's almost no way I could live, including, in a car, off of 300 or 400 a month. It is such a bare bone amount of money that I could cut almost every expense I have, and it still would just barely get me by, if not be even still not enough. And it upsets me again that at a job where they have cut me are using me so little that I can't make enough to take care of the little bit of things I had to pay for before. They're more concerned, or I guess they expect me to be as bothered as they are by someone not saying hello. And it's, again, I just want to keep presenting this idea. If you are being sentenced to your death via your job using you so little that you cannot make a profit off of it that is enough to sustain you financially, why would you care about their rules? Like, I got this big-lipped, Botox-lipped lady talking about the culture of the restaurant. It's like, to hell with the culture. If you can't afford to live, God, it's like, if you, this is why I said we live in a rotten society. I couldn't give any less of a damn about supposed behavioral issues or being pleasant or any of this other crap if I am not able to survive off of this stupid job. And I said before that I live in what I call it the trifecta of trash. I have on one corner a job that barely uses me, so I can't make up any like actual profit off of it, including if I try to if I get asked by them ever so rarely to stay longer, because that's only like 2-3 more hours a week, which is still less than 10, so it's nothing. And in another corner, I guess the middle, we have the employers where they're not hiring. The only place that are hiring are positions that are so bad that no one wants them. Like the one that was talking about working 60 hours a week, knocking on doors all goddamn afternoon and for most of the night. Or the one that was talking about driving 30 or 40 miles to get for a 3-hour shift. Just stuff that, again, nobody wants, and that's why they're constantly on these different job search sites posting stuff, because they're not getting anybody, or the people they are getting are quitting, in record time. Then in the other corner, we have the ever so lovely, relatives that don't do anything. And the same too, they know who they are. But it's like amazing to me that if any of these things were working the way they're supposed to, they could just cancel out the other. If I had a job that I made enough to take care of myself, wouldn't care if the job market is terrible, wouldn't care about the relatives, not helping me. If I could get another job, right, I would have, that's like better, or at the very least gives more hours, I would have quit this one months ago. But like I said, it's amazing to me how they, the whole point of the rotten society as a concept, as an idea, is that we live in a country where, I'll rattle off the statistics. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. Most people can't afford $1,000 emergency. And, you go around a state like California and you see homeless everywhere. Street corners, under bridges, the little camps that they have. And it's like, things are so bad that there are homeless people with jobs, because a lot of times the jobs don't pay enough or the rent is too high. And it's just so lame that in that same system where you are being given so little in terms of hours, the biggest concern you're supposed to have is, I hope my manager thinks I'm kind and nice. It's like, who cares? And I guess I get it. If you're a manager at that place and you're making, 3.6 grand a week, or excuse me, a month rather, almost $4,000, or I should say 7,000 every 2 months. I get where like the most important thing to you is that one of your subordinates, is saying hello back. God, and that's the part that gets me, like the passive aggressiveness. Like I could see if I was calling somebody out of their name or yelling at someone or disobeying orders, but I just literally just am so irritated by this stuff that I'd rather just say nothing at all. Because I think I'd rather, just by holding it in that way is more productive to me than trying to like say hi, just kind of like showing, because it's just so frustrating that you're sitting here in this proverbial burning building. Can't afford this, can't afford that, can't afford this, all because this stupid job won't give you enough hours. And then the managers, who, with their lovely cushion of 40 hours a week, right? And all the benefits, right? All the, insurance and the rest of it. It's like they get to sit there and, they're comfy, right? But their biggest issue is, oh, this person doesn't say hi to me. God, man, it's some soft serve nonsense. And I tell you, this will be the last job I ever have at a restaurant, because what is really going on here, and this is what the lady didn't want to talk about, because I did my greatest hits shift video where me and this other guy who is, and this is how I know the whole, try learning something else is that's just like a line that, they throw out to pacify complaints, valid criticisms of barely being used at that crappy place. This guy told me, and he's someone who knows how to do other stuff, certainly more than me, admittedly, I have no problem admitting that he's only getting used once a week as well. And the only reason he doesn't get upset about it is because he has another job. And that's where we get into the problem of how me and this guy and the other people that are getting used once or twice a week are not getting used once or twice a week because we've been evaluated for our job performance. And they think that these new hires are going to be so much magically better. No, what it is, and this goes back to pricing yourself out of the market, you have these different food places which are charging people ridiculous amounts of money for a low amount of product, and as a result of this, they're not making the profits that they either used to make or were expecting to make. So what they can't make in terms of profit, they're gonna make in terms of cutting the hours of their various employees. So if they only have to pay Justin, $100 or $90 a week as opposed to 200 or 300 by giving him one shift instead of 4, they'll do that along with, the various other people that work there. But it's just insane that you are supposed to, in a rotten society, it is a bigger deal that you're not saying hello to some stupid manager than you barely being able to take care of yourself or not being able to take care of yourself in spite of being, readily employed somewhere that can use you 6 days a week, but chooses to only use you once, literally giving you the tiniest bit of, and that was the funniest part when she tried to say, I don't have the hours to get, it's like, dingbat, I've worked at this place for over a year. I used to get 3, 4, 5 shifts on average every week. But also the position I have, there are 3 segments of it. They have one in the morning, 11 to 4. They have another one that's like 4 to 9. What I'm saying is that it's actually even more like of a lie by virtue of how many multiple shifts of that they have per day. Where there's about 3 different people that could be used for that, Monday through Sunday. And that's why I said with these employers, it's never an honest word. I would have had so much more. You want to talk about respect and the culture of the restaurant? I'd have so much more respect for them if they said, we're trying to save money for ourselves. We don't care if you live or die. Get the hell out of here if you're not going to say hi to me. I would have so much. I'd be the first one clapping. Good job. Thanks for finally telling the truth at last. Now, one final thing before we go out of here. About 5 or 6 months ago, you know what? Maybe probably even further back than that, but within the past year, I met somebody who has a job that I don't know exactly what type of job it is. It could be some kind of customer service gig, but they have a job where they make 40 an hour and it's full time. Now, let me say this: if I don't know what all the extent of the work is. I just know that the hours and the time arrangement of it based off of what I was told by them. If I had a job like that, I would be showing up on time every day, smiling. I'd be like goddamn Mr. Rogers. I mean, I would be a very pleasant prick because I would be happy. I'd be content. I finally am making enough to sustain myself and something that's consistent and it's not fluctuating all over the place like this restaurant crap. But what kills me about this person is that they acknowledge that in spite of their job being full time, in spite of them being able to pay for the things they need to take care of themselves and the various other relatives that they have, they actively choose to not go to work. They will sit in their room on days where they're supposed to be scheduled for work, and they haven't been terminated because of FMLA. And I said, how is it that, and they're same state as me, whatever, but think about this, just be closing segment here. In the same, concurrently, I should say, or simultaneously as I am being, upset by how little used I am at my job, you have someone who is kept on to their, and being threatened with being gotten rid of, by the way, for, not saying hi. You have someone who, in spite of not coming to their job when they're scheduled, can sit at home and not get fired, even though they admit the job is sufficient to taking care. I mean, it drives me crazy that the person who wants to work, who just wants to work, they only get, 4 hours a week, 5 hours a week, and, they can kick rocks. But the one who will sit at home all day long, multiple days a week, 40-hour a week job with twice as much money per hour. I mean, it is. That's why I say I live in the goddamn Twilight Zone, man. It doesn't make any sense.